See this face right here? I'm not going to allow anything to distract me or anything like that. Google Chrome, thank you very much. Because you and these technical difficulties, every time when I want to go on live on my show, you want to shut down something in some kind of way. Apple, uh, I don't know what's going on with you in Google, but I laugh just to stop myself from responding in a type of way. Hello again. Happy Wednesday. I know I was not here last Wednesday, but it's me, the unapologetic therapist, Morticia Sherman, coming to you talking about all things mental health. Now, when it comes to this computer system and technology, and they're talking about AI is taking over everything, if there's always going to be a glitch to some type of situation, I'm going to regulate my emotions quite regularly. Um, was sitting up there confirming an appointment because you guys, when I say I ask God to increase my tent, to enlarge my territory, when I say He is doing that, He is doing that on so many spectrums because my heart is for the community and for the people. So today we are talking about the myth creating a new pathway, emotional regulation versus emotional deregulations versus neurodivergent. Now, I have a special guest that's coming on November the 19th. For those who don't understand neurodivergent and what it means and what it entails, you're going to want to listen in. Adults, especially men. I am so excited about that show. Then our show on November the 12th is going to be amazing for those who are caregivers to not just yourselves or to your husband or to your children, but to your parents. That show is going to be amazing. Um, Thanksgiving, of course, Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. I will still host the podcast on Thanksgiving Eve. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something special and amazing. So if you've not ever been a guest on the show, what I would like for you to do, and I'm going to put that on my Facebook Live, on my website, on Instagram, all of that. You're going to have the link on there. And what I want you to do is I want you to give a special thanks for what you're thankful for when it pertains to your mental health and your mental health community. Your community, meaning the people that are around you, those who are, you're holding yourself responsible, but they're holding you accountable. So tonight's show, this episode is really talking about, the legacy and what you bring. Um, let's talk about mental health when it comes to emotional regulation, deregulation, and neurodivergent truth. If this is your first time listening or signing on to the show, my name is Morticia Sherman. I am a licensed professional counselor here in Houston, Texas. I'm actually close to Spring Woodlands. I service Texas as well as now Florida and soon to be other states. Why? Because mental health is a passion of mine. When we talk about stigma and generational behavior patterns and breaking those patterns, so much is going on in the community and society on social media that is dealing with mental health. We all think that this just started. This has been going on since biblical times. And also, I talk about it in a biblical aspect with practical understanding and applicable tools to help you best navigate through life when it comes to mental health. We also have a nonprofit organization which is called Color Me Stigma Free. That is our nonprofit. What I just found out in the state of Texas and then being able to operate in other states as a first responder, as well as a licensed professional counselor, I can't just have an LLC. I have to have a PLLC. And for those who don't know what PLLC is, Professional Limited Liability Corporation. And I'm learning a whole lot of different things being an entrepreneur, and I want to make sure that I do dot my I's and cross all my T's and keep within ethics and all of that. But that's all the stuff that I need to do logistically, legalizing stuff, because I want to make sure that what I'm doing is doing it for the community and for the people. So let's get into what's going on. Let's talk about, they call it broken. I call it brilliant, misnamed. So they call it broken. I called it brilliant, misnamed. And when we talk about emotional regulation and emotional deregulation, not being able to regulate your emotions correctly, I gave you 2 podcasts, maybe 3 podcasts before, the understanding of what emotional regulation is and what emotional deregulation is. But we're going to get into understanding the both and understanding what is neurodivergent. Neurodivergent actually deals with, a lot of times we don't understand the access of what the brain is really talking about when it's talking to us. Neurodivergent is it's really, I'm going to give you a definition. Differing in mental health and neurological functions from what is considered typical or normal, frequently used with reference of autistic spectrum disorder, not neurotypical. So when we talk about neurodivergent, that's pretty much on the autism spectrum disorder. It's dealing with those neurons in your brain and making your brain work, and what stimulates the brain, how you can be overly stimulated from the brain. And a lot of times we don't understand, because again, there's a misdiagnosis when it comes to neurodivergent, and understanding that it's different from mental health and a mental health disorder. Here recently, more than regularly, we're hearing the word autism. And autism comes from a neurodivergent disorder. Neurodivergent. I know sometimes I can sound a little country, but it's okay. So, you know me on my podcast, I am truly a storyteller. And I want to be able to create that safe space where when you're listening to the story, you're getting clarity, you're getting understanding of what's going on. So I'm all about dismantling myths, honoring neurodivergent information, emotional information, mental health disorder, and building a new emotional map for my listeners and my viewers. So, when it comes to understanding how to create a new pathway of understanding these disorders, that's what I'm here for. You get me on Wednesdays. Um, Last Wednesday, I wasn't on here because I had to do some research. Yes, your girl is getting ready to really go back and get her PhD, but that's neither here nor there. So let's talk about, again, who decides what regulates your emotion, and what does that look like. So I have to go back to defining emotional regulations compared to emotional deregulation. So when we talk about emotional regulation, it's the ability to manage and respond to your emotions in a healthy way, which is critical for mental well-being and effective interpersonal relationships. Now, when it talks about in a healthy way, the ability to regulate your emotions. to manage them and respond to your emotions in a healthy way. I was just speaking to someone earlier about how nowadays critical thinking and common sense really is not taught anymore. Critical thinking and common sense is not talked about, spoke about, or anything else anymore. It's more or less figure it out. But how can I figure it out if I don't have the common sense to understand that my emotions are not being regulated correctly? How can I critically think a thing through to figure it out if I don't know how to best regulate my emotions correctly? How can I figure life out when these things were not provided to me as an individual, because I had to always figure things out on my own, assuming that I have common sense? How? Especially when you're working under emotional deregulations, which is the inability to manage and respond to emotional experiences in a healthy way. An intense emotional response that is disappropriated in a wrong space, wrong time, that can trigger a situation leading to difficulties in calming down, avoiding difficult emotions, and focusing on negative feelings. The condition can manifest into mood swings heightened by emotional reaction and challenges in everyday activities and relationships. But we want to know why a person responds the way that they do, because they have not been taught effectively how to regulate their emotions. So, we're going to continue to explore into that a little bit more. How do these terms have how has these terms been weaponized against neurodivergent black and trauma impact communities? How have these disorders, these definitions, these titles, emotional regulations, emotional deregulations, and neurodivergent, how have these terms been weaponized against Black and trauma impact communities? How? For lack of knowledge. If you don't know or quite understand what emotional deregulations and neurodivergent, which is autism, on being on the autism spectrum, that you're overly stimulated by an activity which causes you not to respond appropriately to the situation because you're overly stimulated, because it doesn't factor into what it is that you're trying to make a decision on, because in reference, it's not typical. Neurological function from what is considered typical or normal is not typical or normal for neurodivergent individuals. It's not. It's frequently used in reference to autism spectrum. It's typically used. Neurodivergent. If I had to give you a breakdown of what it really consists of and how does it really impact a person, let's talk about neurodivergent and its symptoms. Being overly stimulated in a situation to when you're overly stimulated, which can be social difficulty social difficulty, excuse me. Social difficulty when you have adult or attention deficit, when you are intense or in obsessive interest over something, which can relate to Asperger's in an adult. When you're sitting up there and you're having stemming behavior, symptoms of anxiety, or self stimulation, heightened anxiety, these are some of the signs for neurodivergent. When you're overly stimulated, intense sensitivity to light, sound, touch, and smell that deals with the brain. I can't help but to say this over and over again when it comes to mental health. The mental is the brain, it's not the heart. It's the thought process, the thoughts, the things that you're thinking. What may seem common to some is not common to others. And when it comes to critical thinking, what's your thought process? What are you really thinking? Regulation isn't silence, excuse me. Regulating your emotions isn't silence. It's knowing your rhythm and honoring it. What's your rhythm? How do your life flow? Like the kids say, how are you vibing? How are you vibing? Regulation isn't science. I don't know why science. It isn't silence. Regulations isn't silence. When you're regulating your emotions, it's not silence. It's not. It's knowing your rhythm, knowing the beat, knowing how it flows, and honoring it. When have you been praised for suppressing an emotion? When have you been praised for suppressing an emotion? What did it cost you when you did not express an emotion? And I want to say whether it's negative or positive. Prime example, if I'm in a session with a client or participant, should I say, if I'm in a session with a participant and I see them regulating their emotion, the first thing that I say is, you have a right to feel that way. And I thank you for sharing that experience with me. And I thank you for handling that emotion in the right way. If it's a negative emotion, I still say the same, but I follow up with, now what do we do with that? What do we do with that emotion? How do we best process that emotion in a better and much more effective way? How can we counter respond to that which may came across to you as negative, but it could have been some informed information that you needed? And if you listen to it clearly, listen to hear, not listen to respond, you may have handled it a whole lot better and not think back and say, oh, I should have handled that a whole lot differently. No, you handled it the way you wanted to at that time. There's no take backs. If you respond negatively, there's negative consequences. If you respond positively, there are positive effects that happen to your response when you're responding in an emotional state. Emotional expressions as intelligence, not instability. Now, again, I'm a storyteller. And I'm going to tell you a story and I'm going to give you examples and prime examples. And I hope that you can take that and make it applicable to something that you need to address at that time. I'm doing it practically. because that's who I am. Unapologetically, I'm not going to apologize for it. And I say that to my participants. What you're going to get is something unapologetically, and I'm going to stand up on it because I want you to own it, especially if you did it. If you didn't do it and know how to respond to it, we're going to find some best examples to respond to things that need to be responded to. I've already given you a definition of neurodivergence in its content of emotional process. Emotional process. Neurodivergent is stimulation of the brain and how you respond. You can be overly stimulated by watching TV so much, or the brain can only handle so much at one time. The brain can only process so much at one time. You may be hearing 2,000 words at one time and can only collect 200 of those words because the brain is set up that way. Let's talk about masking and sensory overwhelming and the myth of too much. Neurodiver, I cannot wait to the 19th of November. The person that is going to be on this show, that is going to be on this podcast, has so much information for you. And like I said, male, all men, I want you to make sure that when that flyer goes out, that you share it with everybody that needs to hear this. Because a lot of times we're figuring out, oh, something's not right. Doesn't mean something's wrong. So, doesn't mean something's bad. It's just something is not clicking correctly. And you want to find out what it is. I've had so much conversation this week about therapists and how everybody needs someone who is on a neutral ground that can help you regulate your emotions effectively than to sit in whatever it is that's bothering you because you're second guessing yourself because you sat down and you talked to someone close to you. And if they're truly caring about your mental health, they would do two different things. If it's too much for them, they would suggest that you talk to a professional, or they would stand up and give you the right information. Too many times people are being given this sugarcoating of, don't worry about it, it's going to get better. Well, how can it get better if I don't have the toolage and the coping skills to be able to best manage my emotions? And all I keep doing is going back to the same response under my emotional deregulation when I'm not regulating my emotions effectively. I invite you to reframe your deregulation of emotion as a sign, not a flaw. Emotional deregulation is a signal that, hey, I need to properly regulate my emotions. Everything does not deserve a negative response. Everything does not deserve a response. Most definitely not negatively. If you're just tuning in, please like, share, and subscribe. Invite people in. I'm providing information that you otherwise can't get unless you go and see a clinic or a therapist or a social worker or a psychiatrist, psychologist. Every Wednesday, I'm here providing, I see as valued information. But again, who wants to talk about mental health? Who wants to talk about the mental health in a community until it hits home? And that should not be the only time we're talking about mental health. When it hits home, or when it hits a close friend, or when you see it on social media. It's not a celebratory situation. There are actually people out here who really are having issues with regulating their emotions. And it's not a laughing matter. It's nothing to laugh about. If you are not effectively regulating your emotions on a day-to-day basis, yeah, we all get upset. Yeah, we all want to respond in a certain way. But does it deserve that negative response? No, you don't have to um, go and fight somebody because they said something about you, your family members, and whatnot. When I tell my participant, if they're calling out your name and they're calling you out of your name, you have a right to respond. And that response is, I don't have to respond because that's not on my birth certificate. But again, society has us to where we have to respond to everything, and that's not correct. That's not necessarily so. You don't have to respond. You can walk away because a negative response will give you negative consequences. Common sense and critical thinking has become like curse words in the community. Common sense and critical thinking has the emotions of individuals as unstable. It's not. It's so, it's such, it gives a person such an inability to manage and respond to their emotions in a non healthy way. Why? Because we feel like, oh, I got to get you back. I got to say something. You don't know me like that. How you going to say something like that about me? Well, I don't really know you. I may have just met you 5 years ago and we're both 50 years old. That means 45 years ago, I didn't even know you. But you're giving me the response that I need and the activity that I can sit back and say, that's the reason why I don't talk to you. That's the reason why I don't mess with you. That's the reason why this, and you make up all these different examples. So, what does emotional safety look like for you, for your nervous system, not for performance? What does emotional safety look like for you and your nervous system, not for performance? What does that look like to you? Watch your nervous system when someone does something to you and it causes your emotions not to be in a good place, your inability. Emotional deregulation is inability. Emotional regulation is ability. Neurodivergent is your brain stimulation. Okay, so let's talk about things that can help you regulate those emotions. We regulate by remembering, not erasing. We regulate our emotions by remembering and not by erasing the thought. When I give you tools, and I share tools such as mind mapping, I did that at the beginning of the year. Body mapping, seeing your body language, how you respond to a certain thing, your emotional vocabulary, and expansion, your sensory tools. How do you censor those things? Your rituals. Do you, when you're upset, do you bite your lip? When you're upset, do you tap on something? When you're upset, do you hit a pen or pencil against something? Regulating those tools. What is the root cause of it? Are you breathing? What is your breathing work? How are you moving? How are you handling emotional deregulation? How are you really handling those times when you are in a point where you have an inability to respond correctly in a healthy way? What rituals help you to return to yourself when the world feels so loud? What are you doing when the world is so loud around you? How are you responding in a positive way? What are you doing? Are you shutting yourself out? Are you being quiet? Are you listening to music? What are tools that you're using to regulate your emotions in an effective way than staying in that state of the inability to process what it is that's going on? What rituals are you using to return yourself back to that state of peace, having a safe space, and processing your thoughts effectively? Let's talk about again the stigma free ecosystem. How are families, schools, and care systems, how can they help in honoring emotional diversity? For me, as a psychotherapist, when it comes to family, schools, and care systems, how can they effectively help us regulate our emotions more effectively is to give us tools, give us space. When it comes to family, if I know that you are having an inability to effectively respond to something that you feel that is hurtful, and this is not just being a therapist, I don't minimize how you feel. A lot of people minimize how other people feel, they'll shut them off before allowing them to express their emotions. That is something that causes emotional deregulation. Misplaced, I talk about this too, misplaced anger, misplaced emotions, misplaced ideas of how I'm supposed to feel, misplaced thoughts is a part of deregulation. I misplaced those things because you minimized my feelings. You minimize what I was trying to express to you that was bothering me the most. And in that case, that's not a good way to help somebody who has the inability to regulate their emotions. You should be offering support and not offering them to hover and hoard those emotions and hoard those feelings. I invite you as a part of my listeners and those who are watching, may it be social media platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube, listening on Spotify, because we have Spotify set up where the shows are being on there where you can listen. I invite you to become an emotional advocate in our community. Invite people, invite them to the show, invite them to listen, invite them to have conversation. Let's normalize talking about mental health. Let's normalize having those open discussions so people can learn how to regulate their emotions. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about things that other communities feel like that we're behind on. Let's talk about those things. Let's regulate those things. Let's have conversations that we otherwise don't understand what is bothering us the most in our communities. Emotional truth is a legacy of language. Teach it, speak it, project it. I'll say that again. Emotional truth is a legacy of language. When you teach emotional truth, people have a better understanding and perspective of how to regulate their emotions. When you speak about emotional regulation or talking about a person's feelings, because I don't want to know how you're feeling today because you don't know how I'm feeling. Well, it's not always about you. And it's not always about them, but it's most definitely not always about you. You wasn't brought here on this earth just for you. We are here to help someone else reach their destiny. And at times we need somebody to talk to be able to share how we're feeling in hopes that they would allow us or give us the space to say those things without minimizing that which we're expressing, and protect it. How do you protect your emotions? Know who to talk to and when to talk to them. Know who to talk to and when to talk to them. I say it. Know who to talk to, because you can't talk to everybody. And when to talk to them. You got to know when to open up that conversation. I can say that Americans are very selfish. And I mean that unapologetically. I'll stand on that. Because we're the main ones want to tell somebody something, but don't want to listen to everybody else's what we believe is nothing. We want to tell everybody our something. But on another note, everybody else's is nothing. Oh, your problems is nothing compared to mine. What I'm growing through is nothing compared to what you're going through. What I've seen happen in my life is nothing compared to what I've been through. What child? Just because of that, that's nothing. Is it? It's something to me. So I have to learn how to protect when I'm talking to someone who feels like my nothing, my something is nothing to them. I love it now when I talk to my seasonal citizens who will say, I'll say, how are you doing today? Oh, I would tell you, but why would I tell you when everybody else have their own problems? I don't want to complain because there's nothing to complain about because ain't nobody going to pay me no attention no way. Well, when I open that door for you to talk to me, I'm pretty much in between my therapist hat, and being a regular person because I care enough to know that everybody is growing through something. Everybody. So your something means something to me. Your something is not like everybody else's who feel like your something is nothing. Your something is something to me. So how do we build on that? What legacy do you want to leave around emotional truth, especially your emotional truth? What legacy do you want to leave around your emotional truth? So I'll recap on the things that we had going on, and I'll invite you to give feedback, DM me, let me know what's going on. How are things flowing for you? DM me your reflections, tag Color Me Stigma Free, tag Why He Can't, tag the Unapologetic Therapist, MS. Give me your feedback. Leave a voice note. What myth are you ready to break when it comes to emotional regulation, emotional deregulation, and understanding what neurodivergent is? What myth are you ready to break? What generational pattern are you trying to break? What cultural echoes are you hearing from your generations before you that you would like to break? I'll leave you this. We're diving into grief as a scared teacher. Don't miss it. We will be diving into grief in the next couple of weeks. I got something for you that's going to be talking about grief, because when you hear about grief, a lot of people are talking about, death of a loved one or something like that. But grief can be the mere fact of you not regulating your emotions. You're grieving in some type of capacity. Grief does not just deal with death. It's the loss of yourself, the loss of feeling like you don't matter, the loss of nobody allowing you to process your emotions effectively. I want to share with you some things that are going to transpire. Of course, November the 23rd. I believe she said it's probably moving to another location because the ticket sales are going pretty fast. But it's a fashion cruise with dinner and a fashion show. CLTL Fashion After Dark Cruise is happening on November 23rd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets are still available because more people are wanting to attend. It's going to be great. I'm actually going to be there. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I had to create a P LLC. The name of the PLLC I'm going to share with you here shortly. On November the 13th, that's a Thursday, we are starting our healing table where grief meets renewal. Yes, I will be doing virtual as well as in-person grief sessions. And the grief sessions will be given according to how many we have that are available. Yes, we're kicking it back up. It's getting close to that time in that season. And I would like for individuals to be able to process whatever form of grief that they're dealing with in an effective way. The ability to process your emotions effectively. We're going to really dive into emotional regulations and understanding emotional deregulations when it comes to grief. You will be able to see this flyer on all my social media pages. But here's the grand of all grands. Our PLLC is called Therapeutic Escape Space. I know I just hit you with color me stigma free. But according to the professional status of what I had to open a PLLC because I'm not just going to stay here in Texas. I'm really advocating for other states when it comes to being unapologetic about people's healing. So, Therapeutic Escape Space, powered by Color Me Stigma Free and Why He Can't, is hosting a free open house on November the 15th. It is a healing movement. This free open house is open to the community November 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. What you can expect is group counseling session information. You will meet the unapologetic therapist, Martisha Sherman. We will talk briefly about these things culturally being rooted, trauma-informed services, grief, divorce, legacy healing packages, creative sources for families and individuals. You can find more about that. You can DM me. You can hashtag color me stigma free, hashtag why he can't. You can email us at info@whyhecan't.com. You can also see it on our website. We'll have all that information. We just want you to come out. And it's at our office location, 507 North Sam Houston Parkway East, Houston, Texas, 77060. Of course, that is in the Greenspoint area. November the 15th. That is a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Refreshments, light refreshments will be served. Breakfast, fruits, and stuff like that, because I really want individuals to know that we are out there. There are some more things in the works that are happening. I'm so excited about the save the date, the January 24th, 2026 2016. Oh Lord. Can't Shake Me. Houston biggest, loudest mental health circle. We're gonna have some phenomenal people there. We're gonna have a male panel talking about male mental health. We're gonna have a geriatric panel talking about geriatric mental health. We're gonna have, just different panels that's gonna sit there for about 10, maybe 15 minutes, answering questions that you otherwise may not want to ask um, with others around. But I really am opening this door for individuals to know that there are Black and brown therapists in the community that's here to be your hope of healing. Don't suffer in silence. And for those of you who are seeing people suffer in silence, you're gatekeeping. Stop gatekeeping. Just stop it. Because you're hurting the community more than you're helping. And I heard something today as I went to a homegoing service. Community really is not community anymore. There used to be a time, and I miss those times where you can go to your friend's house and the parents are good and you can eat and your parents knew where you were, and you were able to really enjoy being a young kid or an adult. You can go to your friend's house and not worry about if they're dropping stuff in your drink and causing you to have all these emotional responses. I don't, we have to get back to being community. We have to get back to being community. When I say they call it broken and I call it brilliant unnamed, I'm talking about emotional regulation. I'm talking about you. When they called it ungenerated, when they call it ungenerated or deregulated, I called it driven rhythm or divine rhythm. We have to get back to a better mindset. We have to get back to those things that matter most, and that is community. They call it too much. I call it you are the medicine. You are the map of regulating your emotions. Like I said, these podcasts are really hitting straight to the point for those who are listening. Don't forget to go to our website if you want to be a soul breaker, if you want to be a destiny helper for someone who otherwise could not afford. And even if you are at a point where you're needing services and you just want to talk to somebody, you have my information. You can email me at info@whyhecan't. You can call me at 346-525-4981. You can also text me. We're getting ready to go into a season of a lot of holidays. A lot of holidays. If you want to share this on your social media page, if you want to share this to your community, share this information. I will send it. DM me, ask me for the flyer. Open house November 15th. Open house November 15th. Why he can't, the corporation, because it is a corporation now, and we have subsidiaries up under it. And Therapeutic Escape Space is one of them. Color Me Stigma Free is our nonprofit side. Therapeutic Escape Space is our professional limited liability service, and we're focusing all on mental health. It's a healing movement. And this is not your average open house. It will not be your average open house. Come meet me. Come meet the unapologetic therapist, not just on social media. Come meet me in person. I'm a jokester. I love life and I love having fun. Let's talk about those things. Come gather information from me that you can take back and share with others. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Mental health is not bad. It's your respond and how you respond to those things. Then, of course, on November the 13th, I will be opening a door where we're going to have grief sessions, kicking it back up again at my office. It could either be on the first floor or the sixth floor. I'm finding out some of my clients are afraid of the elevator, and that's why I'm working on a brick and mortar that's first level. But community. I'm all about healing the community. Starts November the 13th. Of course, I will be doing virtual. Virtual, I can have more clients inside of a virtual room rather than I can in person. That will be every Thursday from 7 to 8:30 or Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. There is a cost, but it's very minimum. Save you don't have to go to Starbucks for about about 4 days because it's $25 per session, or you can get it at a discounted rate. Materials will be provided, a t-shirt at the end. I love what our t-shirt is saying when you're completing the brief levels, as well as you will get a certificate of completion. And then that certificate of completion is just saying that you have accomplished a way of regulating your emotions where it's applicable and you're able to use those tools. Healing is every day. It's not just one day. But allow the unapologetic therapist to get you to that place of where you can smile again and you can love again and you can dream again and you can hope again. Been there, done that, wore the t-shirt. But if you're not ready for the unapologetic side of me, I get it. I tell my participants all the time, there's not a heaven or hell that I can put you in, and there's nothing on God's green earth that I have not already endured that I can't give you the playbook for. I'm okay with sharing the playbook. I don't gatekeep on nothing. I'm not going to. Why? Because a lot of people are missing out on some great opportunities because people are gatekeeping another person's healing. When you know better, you do better and you respond differently. I love you all to life. Again, November, Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving week. I'm going to send out the link more than anything on next week. There will be a link going out where you can come and join me live Thanksgiving week, giving thanks and appreciation, not just for those around you, but for your own mental health. Be excited about being above ground. Be excited because it lets you know you still have work to do. It's your girl, Martisha Sherman, the unapologetic therapist. I love you to life, and there's nothing you can do about it. See you next Wednesday.